Tonight, the World Trade Organization meetings are being declared a failure.
We shut down the WTO. We've made their meetings cancel. We've expressed to the world that we're not going to put up with this undemocratic system and this kind of institutions that push us down.
Organized labor does not tolerate lower standards for any worker, anywhere, for any reason. We will fight for those workers. We will not stop.
I think what was accomplished was the building of a network of people that is going to be very difficult to break.
We've demonstrated that this is an issue of great importance to ordinary Americans of every stripe, from every political spectrum. And in addition, I think that we have discovered ourselves. We have discovered that we are part of a larger group, a larger family of people who believe still in democracy.
No more violence! No more violence!
What happened today was there was a total collapse in the decision-making structure of the global corporate rule hierarchy, and you had such a revolt going on outside the ministerial with people on the street and protesters and so on, and you had a serious revolt inside the ministerial.
Delegates will be leaving Seattle tomorrow, Dan, and they'll have nothing to show for their effort. With third world governments saying that they're not going to go for any more crappy deals and being excluded by the rich countries. And the protesters provided all the chaos and the noise outside, and they were definitely heard, and I like to think that that sort of inspired many countries who are also excluded from the process to speak up for themselves and be bold. And that helped grind things to a stop.
The issues the delegates were talking about here and the issues the people outside were protesting about, they concurred. The only difference is that the people out there were not able to come in here. And I agree with the president of this country who said that we also need to listen to those people and listen to the issues that they're bringing forward. The issues that delegates had brought forward, particularly the ones from Africa, were not taken into consideration. The meeting was conducted in a very non-participatory manner, in a very undemocratic manner, very non-transparent, and therefore we felt that in many situations that we were left out in the discussions, and therefore we had nothing to discuss, therefore we had nothing to agree on. And a lot of delegates did agree with us as well. Therefore, for this reason, we feel that unfortunately this meeting could not continue in that manner.
Ambassador Barshevsky from the U.S. and Mike Moore just gave a very brief and long-faced explanation for how there are deep crises within the institution. They said that the WTO is taking a time that something's going to continue on in Geneva, but there are no parameters or no timetables or really anything. So for us, it's total victory.
Bottom line of why the negotiations fell apart was a combination of two factors. For the first time in the GATT or WTO negotiations, countries came here having told their public they wouldn't undermine their public interest, and this time they were sufficiently exposed that when the closed room deal started, in fact, they were held to what their public wanted.
The politics of the WTO and the politics of trade in the United States and across the globe will never quite be the same.
You cannot unite the world around jobs and productivity and trade without representation from the people, the real people, not just the bureaucrats controlled by the puppet strings of the dollar bill, but the real people, the workers of this world, the people who build the buildings, the people, the real people, the people on the assembly line. You must include the people.
Well, definitely today we have shown that people can be united against the mighty force.
Well, what you saw today in Seattle was the most significant victory for fair trade and against corporate-dominated trade in the last 40 years of trade battles in the United States.
Everybody goes back to their four corners of the world now to take democracy back and spread it. And that's the real key. Take the whole world tell the world about the WTO. Tell them that it's a people's uprising that's going to stop it, and that's all we have to do.
Now we continue to hound the WTO. We have this enormous political space that we've opened now, where the WTO is at a standstill,
and we are there to sort of rush in and take the floor and really push for the alternatives that we have. I mean, that's what the discussion needs to be about. What are the rules going to be, and who's going to write them? And that's what we've won today.
We need to keep the pressure on so that labor, environment, and all the other concerns come together to focus on getting our voice into the WTO so that these deals aren't made behind closed doors.
I think the United States is a kind of die-hard free trader, but normal citizens or environment groups, etc., are strongly against that direction. I was so much impressed with these people.
I think the big message we take is to go back to our own original places and organize ourselves against the mighty power.
We keep going. This is just the beginning. Definitely, this is not protests. These are not just protests in the street. This is a mobilization of the communities and people that are all around us. So we're going to continue.